Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Alisha Brashay here at Cosmic Gateway. I am joined by my beautiful soul sisters here. We've got Jen from Infused with Light, and we've got Katie Jane from Vibrosound. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Thank
It's
you.
been a month or two since we sat down and had a little bit of a discussion, and of course, very important topic. And just to lead in, as we're approaching February, we have set up to do two amazing transmissions, really based around relationships and harmonization energies for sacred partnerships and relationships. So we thought, because there's so much going on in that arena that has been going on for the last couple of months, and I know I've stayed incredibly quiet and just watching and observing and waiting for the right time to talk about not only what I've gone through on my own personal journey, but what I've observed so many other clients go through. And so I thought it was the perfect time. So here we are. And I think probably might just throw out a disclaimer that this message or what we're going to talk about may not resonate for everyone, and that's okay. And I think one of the reasons that I held back in sharing my experience and sharing my observations is because if you're not on that pathway or that's not your timeline, it can be highly triggering to hear that someone who you were in sync with on a similar path then switches. And then you all of a sudden you go into panic and you go, oh my God, it's going to happen to me. No, not necessarily. So I think it's really important to sort of put that out first, and then, we'll dive into it. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. We've had a lot of off-air private conversations talking about this topic, and it's time to bring it to you. So over this video, we're going to be talking about the different dynamics of sacred partnerships and relationships, and sort of expand upon what has been known as a twin flame journey, and kind of bring it into different aspects or ways of looking at it, understandings, because it's not really one fits the box. One doesn't fit in the box. Is that the right saying? Help me out, girls.
One size fits all.
Thank you.
17 boxes and
We'll blame Ascension symptoms on that one.
Oh goodness. So I don't know where to begin. Where do we begin? Well, first of all, the transmissions, if you're keen to join us on them, one will be on the 2nd of February. So we've got the 2-2 energies and vibrations. So that's going to be the sacred relationship energy restoration. So that will be working the balance and equilibrium of sacred connections. And the second one that we've got is on the 22nd of February, so the 2-2-2, and that one is more about activating. So they're kind of a two-part series. One will be about sort of clearing the channel, being able to harmonize the energies, and second one's much more of an activation to bring on soul memory and look at the shared soul mission. And I think really, let's start there, because I think the most important thing about sacred connections is the work. It is the shared collaboration. It is the soul mission, the path. It's about bringing ancient knowledge forward of, ancient times and different lifetimes that have been mastered, and then bringing that into this lifetime so that you can be in service and, help humanity in your own unique ways. So, yeah, it's exciting. So if that sort of resonates for you, before we dive in, down in the description box will be all the details where you can sign up for those. And we've sort of got a good blend of how we've done the transmissions. Katie Jane does beautiful music to back it, and then obviously we did the live transmission, and then afterwards we married the two audios. So the live transmission, which is the guided process, which is a combination of me guiding through the guided process, and then we've got Katie, Jane and Jen doing epic vocals, toning, light language, you name it. It gets pretty wild in there. So definitely worth checking out. So I'll hand it over to you guys. In where do you want to go from this point forward? Because there's so much to cover.
I think I like what you said about I think the narrative of a relationship in 3D as opposed to the narrative and the archetype of a relationship when you're in service with someone, I think that's a really beautiful lens to look at. Like when I look at my relationship with Will, it's definitely shifted all of my beliefs of what I used to think it should have been like, and now I look at it and it's like, oh well, we truly are meant to be doing stuff together on the planet in music and service and healing. So I think that took a really, really long time for me to be able to break down, but I want this, and I thought that I had to experience this, and I thought this and this and this, and overcome all of these hurdles to be like, oh wait, there's this like way bigger thing to look at. No one really talks to you about that.
It's like the dawning of the realization when you know and understand that the connection is so much bigger than yourself and so much bigger than just two people. It's, you know, it's a connection that is in service to humanity down to the physical mission, but it's the energetics that is so important. And I think that's a lot of what I've been seeing as we've sort of clicked into this new year, is this sort of high love frequency, and that generally is activated through two people connecting, and it really anchors in this pure love frequency on the planet. And it's, you know, what does the planet need right now? I mean, it's been a rough, you know, year or so, well, maybe a little longer for some, but I mean 2020 was a really big purging deep dive year, and now it feels like, all right, well, we've gone through that, now let's like pour in some more you know, higher frequencies on the planet, and let's stabilize a bit and start to move the planet up into the next octave. So,
and as well as the love, it's also like, I think in our last session, Alisha was talking about something that I, on the surface level, saw and perceived as a negative flaw, like the balancing of masculine and feminine, and challenging the ideology of like, oh, I must embody this and he has to embody that, and then watching that actually no, the being that wants to come through us wants to live in a more androgynous scheme, where I think it was the Andromedans were like speaking of like marrying inside ourselves the masculine and feminine, and that is something that's really unique but also really hard to comprehend for a mind. But it's like all these little underworkings of a different type of connection and service. It's never going to look the same for people, but I think that what happens under the surface is so powerful and potent that I think even when I could perceive my relationship as like, this is terrible and like I don't like this and this, it's like, oh wait, like there's so much happening and it's not done yet. So when you pause and be like, we're not connecting, we're not blah blah, it's like there's so much more that's happening.
Yeah, really well said, really well said. Sorry, go Jen. I just know there's birds in the background.
I know. I was something I've really noticed. So during 2020 and even before, I would class myself as a pretty creative person, and it was just non-existent, right? Like just creating, learning about my own gifts, but in terms of my you know, I'm into script writing and that sort of stuff, that was just like completely MIA. And that's come back in, and I think a partner or a sacred connection or someone can ignite that back in you. And I think that when you're in that high vibe creative flow state, you're creating more, and then that also helps you with your own union with your own self, because then you're in your own alignment, so you can split those energies over the two facets of yourself, if you will. But it's kind of like they feed off each other, like you need that spark and then, you know, the fuel of that to keep. So I'm enjoying a shift in like, oh, that's right, I used to create stuff like just for the sake of creating, and that has nothing to do with my spiritual stuff, but in turn it's all part of the package of who I am in the service, right? Like creating anything is of value to me, like artistically. So it's nice to see a resurgence of that in my own energy field, and I think a lot of people are experiencing that as well, like, oh, it's coming back.
Yes, absolutely. So shall we talk about what happened last year? I know like there has been some people who've talked about it, and I sat back and sort of watched and observed it for a while, and I sort of came back to I'm in the process of writing a lot like you said, that creative spark has sort of reignited again. I don't feel like I haven't felt like I wanted to write for a really long time. Even though I've had all this information that I've been sitting on for years actually. But I never felt I would talk about it individually in sessions if it was relevant to certain clients. And I've had all these ideologies and concepts about the different archetypes of sacred connections, the partnerships. But I realized it wasn't until I had to go through the next level or layering of my own experience that I was ready to talk about it, because I was experiencing it and embodying it. And so I guess that's one thing is that I always say about the ascension process is that, you know, it starts off as an idea or a concept or consciousness. And then from there, it comes down into the embodiment. And the only way that you can truly embody it is to experience it yourself. And then you can have a deeper understanding. Otherwise, it's just conceptual. And so I'm just going to like point to behind me here. So we're going to be talking a lot. So if you can see over this shoulder here, this corner over here, I have what I call the galactic counterparts. And over here is what I call more earth counterparts. And what I was starting to see was that there was different frequency types of connections. Some were in how do I say it, in some you could clearly identify that they had a galactic mission together, and a lot of their past memory or origins of their soul were from a purely galactic origin. And then I would find other partnerships that clearly had a lot of lifetimes on Earth. And you can see, or I started to notice different, I won't go into all the details now, and obviously it's not going to fit into every box, but this is just a general observation. And so it has different dynamics. They have different commonalities, can you say? Like, you know, just as one with the galactic one, it's really obvious that they have, obviously, they have that. A lot of them have not that really common resonance to adapting to Earth, let's say. So they can be really shy, very introverted. They can have high intelligence, but they just don't get humans. So they don't like to be around people and things like that. And then you've got, so that's, you know, that's one. And then obviously you see the crossover too, because you see, because I've always identified myself as someone who's been on Earth many, many, many times. And I have a lot of past life memory of different incarnations, different periods of time. And they tend to be more of an extrovert energy, like to be around people. And so you've got these different combinations that happen. And so over the time, I've been looking at these different dynamics and thinking, oh, this is that. And I don't think, you know, from what I understand now is it's not, you know, some people will just go through the dynamic with one and do that cosmic dance, as I like to call it. And then sometimes there will be a switch up, which is what we're going to be talking about, where, you know, the frequency will become misaligned for whatever reason. And then another different counterpart, if you have one, not everyone has them, will come in, and it's just a frequency match. It's a specific frequency match. And the reason that happens, I think there's multiple reasons why this can happen. But, you know, if one chooses not to continue on the mission, you know, I always said the mission's so important. The mission is so important that if one's not going to fulfill the role that is needed to do in terms of soul work, then, you know, there will be a switch and someone else will step in to fulfill that role. And it won't be any less. You know, it's not going to be, you know, like it's going to be your equivalent, you know, a high frequency match.
And thank goodness it ends out that way. Definitely,
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, it's fascinating when you think, like, I think I've had 3 major experiences of like 3 different archetypes of the relationship. And it's interesting to look back at like, what was a soulmate? What was a karmic relationship?
Oh,
yeah. And like how that triggered me, and also allowed me to really explore the depths of like some really, really shadow elements and witness that in another person and a pure reflection. like his birthday was the day after mine. We were both Aries. We had just all these similarities, and I think it's easy to be like, that's your twin, like you both like this band. And then now coming into a more like mission based, lots of past life memories in raising families. And I have so many memories with Will raising families, and now I look at it and it's like, oh, I guess that is like the next journey of my mission. Yes. And it's like funny how there's like a really well laid out progression, and it's like, oh, that's so beautiful and intricate and wise and intelligent, but at the time you're like, why is this so hard?
100%. And I think you said that really beautifully, and that's sort of you know, what I've come to the conclusion of is that each counterpart will step in for a period of time for a specific role. And I mean, that sounds very transactional. It's not to take away the profound love and the connection and everything like that, but it's they all have purpose to it, you know, and whether that's unraveling hardcore karmic, you know, lines from, we'll get into that in a second.
Egypt.
Egypt. And there's a lot of that happening. Or, you know, to bring in children and to raise a family, you know, there's, you know, to bring in awakenings. There's so many different reasons. And I think depending on how old your soul is, how many incarnations you've had on earth, will be dependent on how many different counterparts you'll come in contact with. Because I truly believe that at the end of the 3D experience, which is where Earth is at right now, we have to complete every contract that we've had on a soul level with another significant human being. And that goes beyond just romantic connections and sacred partnerships. You know, that's families as well. And that's why the process has been so hardcore accelerated for so many over the, you know, the past, you know, 5, 10, you know, couple of decades, depending on. There's this real sort of acceleration to get everything cleared so that we can graduate into, you know, completing that, you know, 3D incarnation wheel. And that's on an individual level, but also on a collective level. And we're all working around the clock collectively to be able to dissolve and clear a lot of those, you know, those really dark timelines of Earth. And I think that's a big part of that plays into it too.
I'm just going to throw something out there and keep it a bit real, as I like to do in my little Blu-ray. Let's keep it real, raw, and emotional. So a lot of people also, a lot of people have been on, let's call it their counterpart journey for a very long time. And it has been, well, it's been very challenging. Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, it's brought me to my knees. I think you've heard me all talk about it before. It's brought me to very debilitating mental states, which is all part of the process of transmuting heavy karmic things. And as a transmuter, it's like clearing a lot of yuckiness. But I also feel like my soul got to the point where I was like, I was like begging basically either to opt out of here or begging for a walk-in, or just like, I just couldn't take it. It's been 20 years for some of us. And I think, I don't want to say the word rewarded because that sounds really wanky, but I do feel like the universe is going to go, you know what, you have been working really hard on yourself and others and services to humanity. So I just wanted to give people out there who have been really doing the hard yards and really slogging it in the trenches, I do feel like eventually there's a bit of light cracking through for me at the moment. And I feel like you will be gifted or rewarded in some capacity, that it's not just so heavy all the time, because I can speak from personal experience. The last 6 years has been incredibly dense for me, and I've only just had a shift. Yeah. And I was very much at the point, as these ladies will attest to, of this is really challenging. So I think it's important to identify and address where you're at, where your connection is, and that the danger of boxing ourselves or limiting ourselves to just one sacred aspect of relationships, because the minute we do that, we close ourselves off to the limitless quantum possibilities that are out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Remembering free will, I think, like, definitely those times in the relationship with your counterpart and it actually is just so hellish and so sluggish and you are not well on all levels, like you can't go to work, you can't function, you are too open here, you're ungrounded. I definitely went through that, and I think the best advice I ever got given was like, so what, like, this is a free will planet and you need to look after yourself. If it's not working right now, go get yourself, make sure that you're okay. You don't have to just making sure that you're in a good space to be able to do your own life.
I definitely feel that too. And once you kind of lean into that, you won't be let down. Like, you will be supported and embraced, I think. But it's having that fear of like, but what if I like or have feelings for someone else, and my counterpart who I've been attached and loyal to for 20 odd years, for me since I was like 17, it's like, what happens? It's like, well, if that's meant to be, I can come back to that, but right now I'm out of here because my soul is worn out. And I know a lot of us don't talk about that, and we all try to be like hopeful and optimistic and positive, but I think it's important also to talk about if someone does come in and presents, and it's happening for a reason, right? So we can't dismiss another connection that might be important. Like, you could be paired up with someone who has very opposing views to you, and I think that also has its function of awakening. You know, it's just got a ripple effect. So it's taught me a lot, and that's all I'll say about that.
Well, thank you for bringing it up. And that was like one of the big observations that I sort of went through, is that on my own personal journey, there was a big disconnect that happening around 12 months ago. And I realized it was because it wasn't in my highest and best interest. And the reason for that was because there was a third party that came into the dynamic, and that can be incredibly destructive to a connection when someone starts to become sexually involved with someone else that has a very misaligned energy to yourself. And I went through a really hard time last year. I think people who've been following me for a while, I didn't do any recorded videos for 6 months because it really took its toll on me. And I get choked up now because it was very, very hard.
It is. I think we often don't talk about this is it's soul break, you know, and we have to talk about it because, you know, people aren't really real about it, Alisha. So it's really important that you do talk about it. So
especially the extent of your ability to feel into the other aspects of, like, I guess the energetic ties and cords and tethers. It's like, yes, you're in control of your life, but you can also be affected by X, Y, and Z, and it's like very real, tangible, visceral.
Yeah. And it's sometimes it's very hard to disconnect. Like, try what you might. If you're an empath and you have these highly attuned abilities and frequencies, like all three of us here do, that can be, it's just debilitating. There's no other way.
Lonely.
Yeah.
Very lonely.
And it was so intense. And just before it all happened, like, there was a lot of precursors of heads up of things that it was like I had started saying to myself and openly, you know, if someone else comes into the dynamic, then it's going to have to be some strong boundaries and the split. And those that know the journey that I'm on, you know, that was a really hard call to make. But I had to look after myself first, and energetically I was being, what it felt like to me was there was a lot of vampiric energy that was trying to suck, not energy, through the connection, suck the life force out of me. And I was very diplomatic about this, and I did make a video talking about psychic attack and but I didn't speak about specifics. And those who were around me at the time and supported me saw, and thank you, beautiful ladies who did support me through that time. But it was probably one of the rawest, hardest times. Didn't realize. And you know, the reason that I bring that up is because through all the chaos and destruction, you know, something really, really beautiful happened on the other side of that. But it took a good 6 months to rebuild myself, redefine.
Fast too. You changed so fast.
And that's oh my God, Katie, that is just
so fast.
Like, if we can just say to anyone, like, energy can just change in a second, your life can. And I was so depressed, I'm not going to lie, like, I've been so depressed for such a long time, but you just need a tiny crack of light to come in, right?
Yeah.
To match your little zip, and off you go.
Things can integrate so fast, like to go from psychic attack to this relationship, to this dynamic, to the experiences that you've had, to then be able to open to something else, and also not bypass anything and not shove anything in any corner, and actually like fully feel everything, understand it from a space, and then like allow it to go. And also like not like understanding that 6 months is really fast, and if you're heartbroken after a year, 2 years, like that's like that
okay
is
too.
a real thing.
It takes time. But I was reflecting today. I've been in a big reflective mode of like what has transpired in the last 12 months, because it's been massive for me. And I remember in the hard times that I was going through, there was this little bird literally kept tapping at my window. He would come and he was trying to get my attention. He tap tap tap, and this happened like on my hardest days. And it was like I knew that it was a sign of like it's okay, and tap 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 tap, and insistently for months this happened. And I remember at that time begging, pleading for some sort of divine intervention. I felt like I needed something or someone. I didn't know what I needed to literally come and sort of pick me up. And I remember this day I was sitting on the couch and I literally felt this new energy come in and put their arms underneath me and literally pick me up. And from that day I was like, right, one step forward, one step forward, one step forward. And I hadn't seen that bird since, and obviously because I had moved to a different location, and in the last week he started coming back again. Tap tap.
He's back.
Tap,
He's
tap,
back.
tap. And a week ago he came back. He sat on my car. He brought his new mate. So now there's two. And he's gone. And I thought, wow, me and that little bird, we've been on a journey for the last 12 months. And it was almost like he came back and he was like, I found my mate. I'm good. You're good. See ya. So,
but you also found yourself again, Alisha, like as someone who has witnessed you go through just to hell and back, let's be honest, 4D and around, up, down, and God knows
so
where else.
Too.
Yeah, you just hats off to you. I don't know where I was going with that. I got sidetracked by a dirty 4D.
Hats off to you.
And I think the reason that I want to talk about this is because at the time that I was going through it, I was having clients contact me and they were also going through the same thing. And there was a lot of curse energies, a lot of very dark voodoo, black magic, spells, curses, that had pertained to past lives and their particular soul connection. And there was a lot of interference energies and interference from other people. So I knew that I wasn't the only one going through that. And I did the best that I could to support the people who were connected to me. And I still have clients contact me who are now going through a similar thing. And, I sort of got this image in this picture, and I know a lot of us talked about like the definite splitting of the timelines that happened or is still in progress. And to me, it kind of, whether right or wrong, I just throw scenarios and possibilities out there, but it seems like there was sort of a cutoff point or various cutoff points to different partnerships. Are they going to sort of continue to grow and evolve together? And in some cases, one's just not ready for whatever reason. They've still got karma to clear, they've still got lessons to learn, and that was where there was the disconnect from that energy. And it can take a little bit to disentangle. When you have such a strong soul connection, it's really hard because you're kind of disentangling from so many different levels and layers. But then this shift sort of happened, and I kind of joke, I don't joke about it, but I laugh about it because during all the chaos that I went through, I was having dream after dream Oh, and I would joke with you girls. I'm like, I have dream boyfriends. It's like every night.
I remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I couldn't
We're like,
understand. Oh no, you cut off, Jen.
and you were like international dream boyfriends too. They were like global.
I know. There was like
Oh.
there was all there was all these boyfriends. And I would wake, like they were magical dreams. And it was just like people that I wouldn't normally go for. Like, you know, physical wise, like different type of looking person, but I could feel the pure love frequency. And it was a bit confusing at the time. I had no idea what was going on. Since I've kind of thought back about that, I was like, after I went through that, one, if not two of the people that I dreamt about actually materialized in my life. And so I'm like, was that cosmic Tinder? was I being matched on the astral? I don't know. I like to joke about it, but it's really quite amazing how, you know, that the universe really has got your back in any situation. And what I've seen from you know, my own experience and people that I've supported is that if that disconnect has happened on a long-term partnership that has been, you know, I don't even know what to call it, taking you to all sorts of places and back. And if it has gone through that process of disentangling for whatever reason, there is a beautiful love around the corner and waiting, and that energy is waiting to come in and support you and take you on the next phase of your journey. And, you know, will come in and give the love and support in ways that you probably didn't think were possible, or levels of understanding.
I heard that in a channeling once. I heard that every job that you take, every relationship that you feel like the cogs and the wheels of the universe are so meticulous that once one ticks over, the person that's going to take your job and on the energetic level have already got that job and they're waiting for you. That relationship that you're leaving, that person is already in spirit like dating this person, and then it just needs to materialize. Like there's always the next thing lined up, because that's just the progression of it. And I thought that was really fascinating to be like, wow, so when this was ending, this was beginning for you and this was beginning for me. And we thought we were separated, but we were never.
Yeah. It's the intricacies too, right? And I mean, I think we're going to pose it, but the intricacies are, I just feel like I just one day was like, what if I just said scarily, like, I'm going to let go of this person once and for all? Or maybe if I just say out loud, I'm not sure if I love you. And I just went out there and just, I was playing in the quantum field. I really was. I was like, well, this is causing me chaos. I think don't be afraid to pay attention to your dreams, to pay attention to those intricacies. And because like you just said, Katie, it is all such a bigger picture and such a bigger moving chess piece of energies, and the universe really is conspiring to like get them all like checkmate, like come on. So
100%. Shall we talk about
I was gonna say, are we about to talk about the musings of soul transfer, or is that too scary?
Go for it.
Oh no, well, I've just been musing with, and this is just all my personal experience, right? Like we're not saying that one thing's right, or you know, everything is always a possibility, everything is always right, blah blah blah. And I also just wanted to make the point, I think we did it at the start of the video, but there's so many union energies happening too, and that is literally just around the corner for so many people. So if you're in that zone, then yes, you stay there and you anchor that shit in for the rest of us till we can catch up with you. But I'm just wondering, and I have had this conversation with a few other people, and they're a bit out there, but like Alisha was saying before, if you're sort of paired up with, in whatever context that is, doesn't have to be romantic, I guess. If they can't do the mission for whatever reason, they opt out, there's whatever interference, could be anything. And this is happening to me, I'll just put it out there. It's a bit scary.
I know. We're getting really game here. Keep going, Jen. Hearing you.
I'm just trying to figure out how to say it because it's new, right? So this is real time, us trying to nut things out together, and this is how we try to talk about it.
Sorry, I just have to say, Little birdie's just come back.
He's back. Yeah, he's back.
You talking about me, girl?
It's like, I want in. I want in on this
He's
conversation.
going to fly in the room in a second.
Bring him
Sorry.
in. Bring him in. Well, I mean, I know it's possible because all things are possible, right? But I was like, could it be that my twin counterpart, whatever word you want to call it, could I have maybe met like a upgraded version of him? Could aspects of him be transferred? Can frequencies be, I wouldn't say pulled out, I don't know, transferred across? I just think it's an important topic to explore because I've never experienced it before. And I've always been very loyal, and I think a lot of us in these connections are, but yeah, just something.
I wonder if it's like a rainbow gradient. Like I wonder, you know how we are not fifth dimensional beings. We have the capacity to hold all of the dimensions. I wonder if your picture there, Alisha, how you walk up the rainbow, it's like every gradient of a being, every portal that you go through before you shift to a new frequency, there is a match for every single frequency that you are being on. So it's not that one aspects are being taken from this person and added to another. It's just that they are like the soup stock, and then you're adding like the blah blah, and then the meal is at the end, and there's all these. Like, yeah, cool.
It's like, let's use cake because it's much.
Think about my dinner.
And I was like, so if they're like the sponge, right? Like the essence, like the nice sponge, and then I'm just adding like sprinkles.
The next person has the strawberries. Yeah.
It's hard for me to get my head around, I'm not going to lie, but I think it's important as people who all dabble in these fields and energies, and as we see clients, all of us, we have to be open to the possibility. And I think as a practitioner of any energy, you need to not be boxed. We need to be limitless with our potentialities, I guess.
And curious, like staying in a space of curiousness rather than this is definite or infinite or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm just going to explore because like whatever.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous to fall in the trap of like black and white thinking, or like, but this is the twin flame narrative, and it's like, no, I think it's
toxic. It's really disempowering. I think I definitely fell into a space of spiritual bypassing, and then I think I definitely fell into a space of boxing and categorizing. And at that time, I just needed to actually be like, I don't care. I have to get myself straight because irregardless if you're the one person on the planet for me, I can't date you if I can't sleep and I don't function. Like I don't care who you are.
And for a period of time I went through where the universe would just whisk people out of my life. I couldn't be with another person even if I was crushing on them or whatever. But I think that's all there for a reason, right? To help you with your own transmuting or whatever emotional purging processes. Like I had to go through the death of two, like my parents. I think they can't, like you said before, it's the more I think about the bigger picture, the more I do think. But I have been thinking about walk-in, soul transfer, soul upgrade, soul crisscrossing. I see it like as a weaving, sort of like taking the best bits and sort of just like threading them through.
You're not
I don't know.
That I've heard say about this. And once again, just to reiterate, that's not everyone who's on divine journey.
Not at
there
all.
are many of them that are coming close to union, and there's no switcheroo going on. This is
it is what it is.
Some people. But I've heard a lot of people say that it's like the next level up version. It's like all the attributes and elements that were the activating components of the connection that potentially weren't there all the time. And then the next person who's come in seems to present them and more in more of a stabilized capacity, more of a fifth dimensional anchored consciousness rather than the dipping in and out.
Yeah, so I think it's that inconsistency that causes chaos. The ambivalence of that really can rattle your own frequency, which is also part of the plan to learn self-mastery, so we're not 100%. So easily out of zero alignment, right?
I will give one other analogy. I'm sure my client won't mind me saying this, because when I did that session, it was so crystal clear to me. And what I saw was a lot of feminines who had done the heavy purging for a number of years, or a portion of it, moving out of the 4D space, which is the very distorted, heavy purging, a lot of ancestral clearing, timeline clearings, had finally sort of come to the completion of that process in their ascension journey. and moved into the 5D frequency band, and were stabilizing that for themselves and for the planet, where the counterpart who hasn't quite left the 3D component is now entering into the 4D. And that's where the disconnect has happened, because it's literally in different dimensional frequencies and it can't be felt. So of course, when you're stabilized in a different frequency, then you're going to, open to, if you are open to, or allow in someone who's matching at a stabilized frequency similar to your own to come in. And that's the law of the universe, isn't it, that if something steps out, something will come in and take its place.
Yeah, and back to our own self mastery, I've been very quiet on the light language front, and the more that I just sit with that and feel into that is because I was going through that disconnect process, and my codes, they're changing because my frequency is tuning, right? It took me a long time driving Alisha pretty much batty, and everyone going, I don't want to do it, because I was in this in between. I could still do it, obviously, but it has shifted in its, I would say it's more delicate now, if that's a way of explaining it.
Like the fine-tuned dial of
and it's not as heavy in terms of a transmutate. I'd like pull a lot of density out of people. It doesn't seem to be what I'm doing now. So I think it's important too to acknowledge with your own gifts and abilities that whatever, it doesn't have to be sacred relationships, but whatever frequency shifts you're going through, I think it's important to sit and reflect on where you're at with your personal work as well, because it does impact, definitely. And I was very reluctant to do anything till I had a bit more clarity on it.
Yeah,
I've definitely seen the toning and the sounds that have come out since working with you, Alisha. Like a client the other day I used to see her over the phone, and then I saw her in person, and she was like, I didn't realize that sound, like I would make the sounds on the phone and she'd be like, I thought you were striking a tuning fork. I didn't realize that was your voice coming out. And I was like, wow, like it's crazy to see when you evolve. I love that, what you said, Jen. I feel like when I first started working with people, I would pull out a lot of density, whereas now I feel like the high frequency asks everything to reach it, like law of physics, a stronger vibration will entrain a weaker one. Like I think instead of going from the roots up, it's like, actually, here's tune to this, tune to this, tune to this,
and it's like a microcosm, like of glitter, rather than like a waterfall. It's just this very precise laser. But once that gets in the molecular structure, or getting techie now, but with sound, I think that's important, that when you're listening to light language and toning or sound healing, once that frequency dissipates through the body, it's such minuscule, but it has such a huge ripple effect. And I've been looking at cymactics heaps this week because of that. That's what it's doing to the body. So that's just went a bit wild.
It's like once something shifts, it like everything is always breaking down and reforming. It's like with a frequency and with a sound, if your cell has come from a diseased shape into a healthy resonance, it only takes one frequency of the correct thing for it to entrain to, and then it's shifted. Unless you're going back into the environment and doing whatever like it can be like that.
And if you think about like frequencies with people, if you've had more and more of that fine tuning done to yourself, and like you have like all this glitter everywhere, but the other person has like, let's call them big black holes, dark matter, it's a mismatch, right? So it's not you could do all the light language in the world for someone, but it's not that tuning of where they're at, and you can't do it for them.
Pretty well.
Did we go a bit wild and woolly there? Sorry, Alisha.
What were you saying, Alisha?
I was just going to say, I'm so glad that you brought that up, Katie, because I've noticed that, and what you said, Jen, like I went through that fine tuning earlier in the year when all my abilities got switched off. I talked about that, and coming back on, and now like there is a lot of light language and toning, and I think that that's thanks to you guys, because working alongside you guys, I love you guys. I think you start to merge different abilities and gifts with the people that you sort of associate with or in resonance with, and I think it's a melting pot of like, we can do all these amazing things, but I noticed that I used to do a lot of pulling and ripping out like you did, Katie. And now what I'm doing is just blasting. When I'm doing these sessions, I'm blasting such high frequency. It's dissolving matter that's not in alignment. Like it's such.
And so fast that you're like, is that it?
Yeah.
So it happens so fast.
And I've been
I want it to take
Alisha.
longer, but it doesn't need to.
Yeah,
Right?
this is what I've been talking to Alisha about, like changing my sessions, because I don't need to do 30 minutes. You can do 2 minutes of light language. That's just so potent. It's that whole concept of time and all of that, and it's all dissipating for me at the moment. But I'm going through a bit of a work through, but I do think that your gifts during these frequency shifts are important. And I think you'll be matched with someone who will enhance those gifts or be more accepting of, so that you can embrace or step into them more.
Yeah. Because, ultimately a lot of us, probably everyone who's watching this is coming here for a really important, big mission, in your own unique way. And, a lot of it is done very solo, that is a big part of it. But a lot of us who are on a divine partnership journey, we are relationship oriented ascension partners. Ultimately, it's not a pathway for everyone. Some people are more like traditional sort of Eastern philosophy, sort of sage, like, enlightened masters that go the solo journey. But I've always said that, relationship-based ascension is an accelerated version.
Oh my God.
Write that shit down.
I mean, they talk about, or, David Wilcock talks about like 13 years of purity of thought to achieve light body, rainbow body, right? In a divine partnership, I think you can go through that in a lot quicker time, but it's a different process. It's not purity of thought. It's like, you go through the epic purging.
Hell, come back.
But then you go through the activation. And I think that's what a lot of people are experiencing now, is this like really high frequency activation through the heart center that is bringing align more of these gifts and abilities. And I think sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but what I wanted to say was that the universe, our higher selves, our galactic families, they want us to succeed and make, turn this into the Garden of Eden, restore Gaia back to her original blueprint. That's why we're here. And it's strength in numbers. And when you have powerful partnerships that have the ability and capacity to do that, we're just getting it done quicker, So, when you kind of look at it like that, and the beauty of it, and it's, I just sense a lot of beauty in doing that and having a lot more joyful experience in the process.
Yeah.
And it balances out as well. Like, I think even when it's like everything is tumultuous, but I think it also happens at such a accelerated rate, exponential growth right now. Like the shifts between all of the relationships, and then even the first 4 years with Will has been so hard. And now I'm coming to this space where I've done so much work and he has done so much work apart. We had to come apart, and then I've shifted, he shifted, and now we're shifting together. And like my gifts are crazy fast. His gifts are like, it's just that it's not hard forever. And I'm really starting to lean into this space where, and now I look back, it's like, Alisha, I met you like 2 years ago and I've been through so much in that time. And now I'm finally looking at the space where it's like, oh, actually it might be chill now. Like, I think I've reached this plateau where it's like, oh, it's okay for it to be good. It's that sense of like, it's been good for a few months now. Like
what's happening?
What's around the corner? But now it's actually like, it's so weird. But now it's kind of like, it's not weird. And it's like, none of that pain ever happened. It's like, you shift into that frequency. It's like, oh, it's like, it never happened. It's actually just great. And it can be great. And there's bigger things to do than like have weird relationship things. Like, I've got so much to do. We just need to work together, and that's easy. And who knew it could be like that?
I've always thought, and I that's always been my sort of motto in a sense, is that it's always about the work and the soul mission. And when you put that as a first priority, and the creative, talents and gifts, and like, the projects and all the beauty, when that is at the forefront, everything else sort of like falls into place. And it's like, when we get so tied up in the dynamics of the relationship, working, not working, that's a very 3D construct, right? And it is a part of it. There's no judgment, it's a necessary part of it. It's when we get too polarized in the focus on the relationship, that's where we can lose our balance. And then we bring ourselves back into alignment by focusing on mission, purpose, and things kind of take care of themselves in that way.
What would be your advice then for people? Like, I have a few friends and I know some people going through some really brutal like splits from people. Like, what would be a perspective that they could take, or a lens that they could take, in not knowing if that was the thing, or if they're splitting up forever, or if someone's in that really like everything's being taken away from them phase? What would be some
advice? It's a rebuild phase, been there many times. And I think that that's a beautiful time to rest and heal and reconnect with self, and go back to the things that perhaps you put to the wayside while you're in that relationship, and get to know yourself on who you are now as a person, as opposed to a person you were before beginning that relationship, and fall in love with self again, and follow your heart's desires in where you're being guided and led, because the universe surely has a magnificent plan for those people too. And I've never been a big fan of like going from one relationship to another. I think that there is an importance in time, solo time, and being alone, and knowing who you are, because the more you can know and understand who you are as a person, as a soul, as an individual, and what makes your heart sing, it's that resonance that you're going to pull in the highest vibrational relationship. Because when you're in a place of victim mentality, scarcity, poverty,
why they do this,
or rescue, like rescuing and fixing, because I've been guilty of that, because I thought that was my mission. I mean, that's a nice deluded thing. What is it? I did and
I just have to save your complex. Let's not,
But I would also say to people too, like, if you are in it, in the thick of it, or sometimes you just have to be in the thick of it. You just have to just be down there in the mud for a while, and just, it sucks. There's just nothing else. And I think,
and
Alisha, we've always said to surrender to it. Yeah, because resisting it is only going to make it worse.
And watching terrible programming on Netflix about relationships is not going to help, and looking at them on the social media is not going to help, and like complain.
We all do it. Because
it's in like the ingrained in this like overarching program that is just so messed up. Finding what makes you like your joy is the best. Like following your highest excitement and being like, yo, I'm free on this crazy planet. Like, what do I want to do?
I get that, but I would also say to people too, because sometimes you can't find your joy when you're in that heavy.
True. I just walk away from things, light a match, and burn it, and then I'm like, see ya.
Like, bye.
I've been done a bit of that in the last 12 months, but anyway.
Yeah, I do think that, I think it is a fine balance. I think there's merit in those places, because I also think now, look at our mission work, like we're talking about those experiences that are happening to us, like we're kind of like bringing that into the discussion because it's happened to us. So you can talk about those experiences, I guess, until you can find the joy of being able to get out of that place.
And it takes a while, but there's nothing quite like soul growth and character building, in going through those dark times. I know that every dark night of the soul that I've been through, and there's been a few, I've always come out the other side with a stronger sense of self, and being more convicted in my purpose and my mission, and taking that really harsh experience and making it something really beautiful, because I know that I wouldn't be going through it if it wasn't for a purpose and a reason. Because
don't you hate hearing that when you're transiting?
But you know, there's always going to be people. Oh my God, sorry. I'm just watching the birds
The
put his
birds?
face back.
It's that. Yes,
He's
birdie.
the male and the female, and they're just like hanging out. And
Oh.
I wonder if there'll be babies
fluid.
soon.
Oh. Mm.
So, sorry, I'm distracted. Where was I?
What were we talking about? Transmuting, purging, soul growth,
Soul growth.
Commitment to passion.
dark nights of the soul.
All fun, but all necessary, you know. And I think in those times, if you have a strong sense of self or connected to that higher aspect of yourself, that's generally the part that gets switched off. So it's really annoying because you can't even get
Your robot comes on
aligning.
like, hello, autopilot, here I am. Yeah.
But it's designed that way, and that's the time to rest and nurture and just get back to basics and get back into nature. I know I did a lot of nature walking, a lot of like soul searching and connecting with the animal kingdom and things that were gentle for me, and you know, soft music, and I spent a lot of time having, you know, support through healing practitioners and different modalities, and I
It's
really
the fun part.
yeah,
Yeah,
really,
go wild on the healing
help.
modalities.
Yeah,
Find out what works for
treating
you.
yourself. Yeah. Because then you fully, I think that obviously everyone says that, but like in the darkness of all of those relationship stuff, that's where I learned all of everything that I learned. So it's like, thank God all those terrible things happened.
Yeah, 100%. That's the point I was getting to, is like you go through that experience, and then of course, you know, once I've gone through that experience, or what I've gone through in the last 12 months, of course, you know, I'm going to be attracting people who are then in the earlier stages of that, and I can best assist and support them to show them that there's, you know, beauty and light on the other side of it, that, you know, and help path a way to help them go through that hard path. And you know what, that lights me up and makes my heart sing, you know. So yeah, I guess it's been a bit raw. I never thought I would openly say all this, but you know what, it's been on my mind for a couple of weeks now, and I know that when something's so heavily on my mind, I need to speak it, as uncomfortable as it is for my human to and I thank you ladies for your rawness and sharing too. And you know, just know that if you are going through something similar, that you're not going bonkers, because I know that if I didn't have support of other people and the awareness that I wasn't going through it, I would have thought, oh my God, if I've fallen off some whack timeline, like what the hell is going on here? And you know,
yeah.
so I
do the transmission.
Yeah,
I'd say go and do a transmission.
go and do, so we as I said in the beginning, we've got the 2 transmissions coming up. We've got two, and I just want to really reiterate that, you know, we've kind of expanded that. Anywhere that you might be on, if you think that you're on a sacred partnership connection, if you know the person, if you have felt their energy presence, if you're in separation, it's kind of all inclusive, really. It's working with the energies of an energy counterpart. So, you know, you may have an awareness of that person, but may have never met them. You know, there's all the different facets and stages that we go through. So if you feel that that is part of your ascension path, is on a relationship dynamic, and you feel aligned to restore balance, it's certainly going to be an exciting one. And then obviously the second part, which is like activating mission and all the beautiful things that we've spoken about. And of course, you know, I don't know about you ladies, but I feel like, you know, you can't hold that frequency until you are through it. So I feel like this is going to be a bit of a potent one.
Yeah, and we've got beautiful Hester's artwork as well.
Yes, thank you.
We need to talk about her beautiful artwork.
Let's talk about Hester. So expressions of self on Instagram. I'll put her in the link, and I've put that already in the bio. So magical being she is, connected with me at the end of last year, and she wanted to share a piece of artwork, and as soon as I saw her artwork, it did something to me. It hit me, it touched me in ways I couldn't fully comprehend or understand. And after that, she shared a little bit more, and I just straight away, it was intuitive. I said, I really want you to do the artwork for the transmissions. Are you interested? And we connected, and the four of us have now connected, and Hester has done like, it's, I don't know, I don't even have words for it because it's so unique in the coding, but it's the energy frequency. So
Yeah.
shout out to Hester and thank you, beautiful soul sister.
Yeah, it's a real fusion. It's really combining like everything together.
Yeah, and I think it's a good mix because we were joking about how both of you are Aries, fire
Yeah, we
signs,
are.
and then there's me, the Pisces, the water sign, and sort of having Hester's energy infused with us. She's also another water sign, so I feel like we've got a bit of balance happening now.
We can get a bit whooshy. We can get a bit, can't we? Woo!
Yeah.
Get
So we're going to do a little intro to this transmission free on YouTube, which will be sort of a demo, an introduction to, if you haven't done or experienced a transmission with us before, be a little bit of a taster, just to feel, so you can see if there's a resonance and you would like to join us in one or both of the transmissions coming up in February. So before we close off, I just want to thank everyone if you stuck around this long to us chatting. I would love to hear your comments, your thoughts. If you have any questions, I'm happy to come back and answer questions around this topic. It's so vast. I don't think we've even really scratched the surface of all the ponderings that we go through off camera. But I think it's enough for now. So, and of course, if you feel that you need additional support, the three of us do individual sessions. So I will put the details and the links below of where you can connect with each of us individually.
Even closing off sessions as well. I've been doing a lot of ceremony of releasing partners as well. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So as you said, as the earth comes to the timeline, clearing the karmic connection so you can be free.
Yeah. Forward. Yeah. And I've noticed, and I was having this conversation today, in my own experience, I had noticed that there was this sort of, you can tell when the old timeline's still active and the new one is coming in, and it's sort of like this switch over point, which is becoming less and less, or at least has been. And so I've been doing some sessions too to help people anchor in the new connection, the new timeline. And it doesn't have to be with a partnership. I mean, generally speaking, it could be a job or, just an old shitty cycle of purging, and then you're coming into the high vibes, and there's a lot of people doing that at the moment, and that's what's needed, because there's going to be such a big massive influx of more people entering into that 4D space. And as we both all know, that's a terrifying place, but it's the most magic for self-growth. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Katie. It's really important. So I feel very blessed to have you magical ladies here with me,
sharing your story with us.
So listening, guys. Sorry about the tears. It's a bit raw today.
Don't ever be sorry.
Keep it real.
You're doing it for humanity, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna sip on glittered mojitos in cosmic land and be like, what a journey. Here we go again.
Here we go. All right. Oh goodness. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there and sign off and send massive love to everyone and look forward for you to join us on the transmission. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Bye.